Billy, I don't have the tomato shield. Okay. All right, so that was fun. Who will dare to go first? All right, so this is what we call the Afterburn. If you have a comment or question, you can raise your hand, and we've got, all right, Paul, you gonna go around with the mic? Okay, so Paul's gonna go around with the mic, and if you're on live stream, we've got Rob Wyatt, and I'm sure Kurt's on there as well, and we also got Richard Yetter in the back too, so we got the whole Shamashim team back there, at least 3 of them, and so go ahead and start typing in your comments or questions. We'll try to go back and forth between live stream and those here in the room. Okay, Mercy.
Thank you, Rabbi. I have a question for you, but before I ask the question, regarding submission, it's really interesting because the main reason why I came down here to live and to plug in was, I remember I told my mother and her husband, I said, I need to go someplace to learn how to submit. Because I said that, and that's very strange to say to people who are outside the camp, and sometimes to people inside the camp. But one of the things that I've been learning from you, from watching online, was submission. And I know I'm a very strong individual, and I'm used to controlling my own life. Not anybody else's life. I never wanted to control somebody else's life, but my own life. And at some point, I had that Scarlett O'Hara moment when I said, you know what? I'm tired of controlling my own life in this regard, and there has to be something better and bigger. And one of the things that I noticed with just being under your ministry was the fact that that was something I needed to learn how to do, and you have been showing me how to submit. So my question is, and I'm not saying this out of fear of being in this situation, I'm just saying this because this is a thought that came up when you were talking about it. If we look at Korah, and we look at how he started the rebellion in the camp with Moshe, and when the father was like, okay, that's enough, blah, 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 he opened up the ground, everybody got swallowed in, everything of his and the people and everything like that. How, if a wife is supposed to be submitting to her husband, which is valid, true, it's the truth, it's in there, absolutely, I'm all for it. Now, in that regard, if his wife submitted to him because she was supposed to, but he derailed somewhere along the lines, how does he handle that? Like, did she do it willingly? Or is it something where she did it because she was supposed to submit to him and she just got caught up in it and she got swallowed up too? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, how does that work?
I understand. Look, there's more than one factor going on there because, you know, what we do, especially when we're the head, if you're the man of the situation, you have to understand that it would likely often have a ramification on the rest of your family. Okay, so it's not so much that the children and the wife are being judged here as well. And who knows what that means for them in the future, as far as resurrections and that kind of thing. But this was a consequence that everybody would see, that you, the leader of the family, what you do affects them all. Okay, so that was more the issue there, okay? All right, but good question. And I appreciate that. Look, because, you know, there are those of you that are very strong women, okay? And that's not a bad thing. But if you can't find a way to submit that, it can create a lot of problems for you. And so that's important. Look, I didn't get there, but I'm going to read it here during the Afterburn because it kind of fits in. So in 1 Peter 3, it says, let's go to verse 5. For in this way in former times the set-apart women who trusted in Elohim also adorned themselves, being subject to their own husbands. So the point being is verse 6. As Sarah obeyed, and that really is what the word there means, obeyed Abraham, calling him master. And a lot of you ladies are like, well, I'm going to be like Sarah and Rebecca. No, you're not. Are you ready to obey your husband? Okay, submit fully to his authority. That's what the Greek word means there. He says, of whom you become children, doing good and not frightened by any fear. He says, in the same way, so the ladies focus on verse 7. Husbands, live understandingly together giving respect to the wife as to the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together and of the favor of life, so that your prayers are not hindered. Okay, so wait. Husbands, live understandingly. First of all, it doesn't mean husbands understand your wives. That isn't happening. Okay? Men don't understand women, women don't understand men. Okay? I love this joke. It's a weird joke. Well, I love this joke. There's the guy finds a genie lamp, right? He gets his wishes, and so he's got one left, and Genie says, okay, what do you want? And he says, well, I live in California. I can't stand boats. I can't stand flying. I want you to make me a highway from here to Hawaii. And the genie's like, do you know how much material it takes to make a highway from California to Hawaii? He says, well, that's what I want. So he tries talking him out of it, and they're back and forth and arguing. He says, fine, I'll ask something else. He says, what's your wish? Explain women to me. He goes, you want 2 lanes or 3 lanes on your highway? All right, so. But ladies, you think we're complicated too, although I think men are the most simple things that there are, I mean, we're not hard to please, keep us fed, and, give us some attention and we're pretty good to go. So let's look at what it's saying here. So husbands, it says, live understandingly. What? He says, because your wife, giving respect to the fact that she's a weaker vessel. Understand, now ladies, if you don't act like a weaker vessel, don't pull this verse out and throw it in your man's face. Because if you're not acting like you're a weaker vessel, why would he live like understanding that you're more delicate and fragile and a weaker vessel? When you're busy getting in his face and, dominating the whole deal. It says, husbands, live understanding together, giving respect to the wife. Respecting that she's a weaker vessel. Also giving her respect as you would give to any human being. But not respect like we're equal in authority or respect that you're higher in authority. The respect appropriate to that person, okay? Everybody has an appropriate level of respect, whoever they are, based on what they're doing. If you're employed, the employees deserve a certain level of respect than the employer. And they're not getting the same type of respect necessarily. I mean, some basic respect and politeness, I guess. But I'm saying, but you respect certain things based on position. And so let's just be careful with that verse, because a lot of people say, well, it says, husbands, you need to live with understanding with your wife. Yes. That doesn't mean you have to come over to hers. You have to understand why she struggles and that she's a weaker vessel and all these other things. Understand that you're dealing with a woman. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying you're dealing with somebody who's different than you. You're a man dealing with somebody different. So you can't treat her like you would treat a man. You can't expect things out of her like you would expect from a man, because you're not going to get that. And in a lot of ways, that's really good. Okay, ladies, you bring some wonderful different stuff into the mix. So none of this is about, chauvinistically or this or that. It's just different, okay? I know the society's trying to convince us it's not, but it is. And so let's just make sure we're understanding in 1 Peter here what is going on. There should be a clear understanding, especially to the ladies. Now, guys, if the ladies are going to call you master and obey you, you should be really worried about what your master thinks of how you are handling yours. Because there's a lot of parables by Yeshua that talk about the master treating his servant a certain way, and then that servant going and treating his servants a certain way, and when he didn't treat them very nice, after he was treated so nice, it didn't go well for him. Okay? So yes, you are being watched on how you treat your wife. Wives, you're also being watched on how you treat your husband. So let's make sure that that's really clear, because there should be no ambiguity here. It's not a translation problem. It says that Sarah obeyed. And there's a lot of you wives that word doesn't mean anything to you when it comes to your husband. Okay? Look, I make the joke. It's not even a joke. Guys, I tell you, give your wives 100 yeses, as many as you can give them. But when you say no, ladies, you need to let them say no. And what happens, unfortunately, is you get so spoiled, you don't. And you get all mad. How dare you tell me no? I should be able to do what I want. And no, he can say no if he's master, if you have the awe and respect that you're supposed to have for him. But guys, you need to have your own fear and reverence for that position. Remember, Yeshua didn't lord it over people. Okay, he loved the assembly. He gave of himself. He took care of, he provided for, nurtured, made sure they had everything that they needed. Okay, he was moved when a woman broke the perfume bottle to wash his feet. He didn't walk in going, okay, someone come over here and wash my feet and, give me a back rub and take care. I mean, he wasn't walking around like king of the castle. Because some of you guys think that that's what you need to do. No. But you should be always aware, does my wife have what she needs? And even would be nice if she had some of the things she wants on top of what she needs. But you should at least make sure she has what she needs. All right, next.
Hello, Rabbi.
Hi, good to see you.
You too. You were just speaking a little bit about what it means to be the weaker vessel. I was wondering if you could explain it to me more, because I've always had a hard time understanding that verse, because I know a lot of women who are not weak. They're a lot stronger than I am. But if you could explain that better, it'd be great.
Well, look, in the ideal metaphor here, weaker is, yes, you could look at it physical on some levels, okay? But really what it's talking about is that they generally, please don't start throwing things at me, generally are the ones that have more sensitivities. Their feelings bag is overflowing. They're more quick to have their feelings hurt or get offended. They're more weak in the susceptibility to negative emotions, okay, from that point of view. Does that answer the question? Okay? So yes, the weaker vessel, more likely to end up in a negative emotional place. All right? And some of you thinking, well, my husband gets angry. Well, but does he stay there very long? Not as long as you do when you get upset. Because some of you ladies can be upset, well, some of you are still upset since 1982 or something. I mean, you haven't, And I know because you're still talking to your husbands about that incident that happened in 1982. You guys teach the elephants about forgetting. They say like elephants never forget. You ladies, I'll tell you what. Okay, next.
Yeah, that's some of us blues. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I think initially Abba had intended, and this is not to be taken in any prejudicial way, that the primary color for the ladies would be blue: intimacy, loyalty, trust, relationship, details, okay? And the primary color for the men would be red: decision-making, leadership, providing, making sure things are getting done from that point of view. That, I think, was the initial. Now, of course, through the years in society and growth and everything else, we end up in a world which has very few red men, lots of blue whites and white blue men. And ladies, we have a lot of red ladies and mostly blue or purple ladies that are out there dominating their men and everything else. Because I can't tell you how many marriages I've got a red or somewhat purple woman married to a white blue guy. And then they wonder why they're struggling, okay? Because she's leading and dominating. He really doesn't want to and doesn't know how to. And it's upside down and it's all a mess. And so,
Well, actually, mine was just a comment and a reminder to myself as well. When you were speaking about the women not just sitting, not helping her husband and just sitting around the house doing nothing, it sparked to mind Proverbs 31. The Proverbs 31 woman.
Right.
No, we're not all Ruths and Esthers and Rebeccas and so forth, but the woman in Proverbs 31 was working. She was a worker. She had her hands in everything, and she was helping her husband as a team. She was helping him provide, and instead of just sitting there waiting on him, and he was reverencing her. He was giving her honor because she was helping him. And
right, amen. And by the way, I want to make sure it's clear, I was never hinting or saying that any ladies that I'm aware of are doing that. I'm saying that that's not anywhere that the man needs to provide you the ability or option to just sit at home and do nothing. I don't know any ladies that actually do that, but I'm just saying is sometimes the ladies think that they're entitled and the obligation is for the man to provide everything and the woman doesn't have to do anything. And they always had both doing. The job of the man, though, is to be the primary provider, if possible. Now, sometimes ladies have jobs and careers that make a lot of money, so they make more than their husbands, and that's fine. But husbands, they should be able to be okay just on you. If that's not the case, the marriage will have issues because you won't get respect from her, you will not get respect from yourself. Now, it's okay if she makes more than you, but she should be able to live without her income and live on you, maybe not the same way you can with hers. But also, ladies, if you're married and your children are no longer really needing your attention, they're out of the house or they're older, and so you're just sitting at home, I don't know how you're not bored out of your mind not having something to do. Why wouldn't you help with the finances, with the future retirement, and get a job? And there are a bunch of you out there that are in that case, and I want to smack, and I got husbands saying, but I promised my wife when we got married she wouldn't have to work. Well, she doesn't have to. So she should choose to do it herself. Why wouldn't you want to be productive? 6 days you shall work. I mean, don't tell me that if you're just two people that there's that much cleaning that has to be done. You got 5 kids, you're never done. Okay? But if it's just you two, how much can there possibly be to clean? And how often? I mean, you can get that done. But don't you want to help for the future, for the retirement, for whatever it is you want to do to do something? Because I'm telling you, I know that every marriage that I know where the wife makes more than the husband, they struggle. And I know that can't be helped because sometimes a woman has a degree and a license and she's a professional and she just makes a lot of money. So it's harder for them. It's harder for them. Stay-at-home dad situations, always struggle. Always struggle. It wasn't designed to be that way. I'm not saying it can't be done and it can't work, but it's hard. All right? I've seen it work. Don't get me wrong. What I'm just saying is, it's hard. Okay, it's challenging. Okay, next, let's go to live stream. I want to alternate back and forth a little bit. Because otherwise it gets so wrapped up here, then we run out of time for over there.
Okay, from Tina Snyder, says a question. If your husband is not covenanted and wants you to do something against Torah, we don't have to submit to that, do we? There's a couple others. I think it's kind of that line from Beyond Ready. It says, my Baptist husband wants to take a week's vacation and doesn't want to be inconvenienced by the Sabbath keeping. Would I be breaking Torah riding in a car on Shabbat?
All right, so let's go back to context. Everything being written here is being written to people in the body. So now we got a different problem. Okay, so when I'm talking about what the ladies need to do or the men need to do, that's in the context of being in the body, okay? Because even verse 1 of chapter 3 of 1 Peter, it says, ladies, be subject to your husbands. So if any are disobedient, those are covenanted people making some mistakes and doing some things they shouldn't do. Now, you're talking about an unequally yoked situation. In the unequally yoked situation, look, you are in a vertical chain. You are not to listen to the one above you if the one above you is asking you to break something with the one above them. All right? This is like when child comes to dad and said, but mom told me I couldn't. Dad said, but I told you you couldn't. I'm higher than mom. Okay? And so you already knew I told you no. Mom's yes doesn't mean anything. So the same thing with the situation with the unequally yoked. Husband wants you to break Shabbat. You need to tell husband, I can't break Shabbat. Husband doesn't like that. Well, then you may have a marriage problem. But you need to obey Yahweh. There's no exception verse that says, unless your husband who's not in the walk tells you that he wants you to come with him to the ball game or go shopping or whatever it is on Shabbat. No, the higher authority always is the higher authority. Okay? All right, so then the other question had to do with riding in the car all day on Shabbat. Same thing. I would say, no, I'm not doing that on Shabbat. Okay? Remember, two can't walk together unless they agree on how they're walking. So right now, you and your husband have a disagreement because he's not walking the same walk as you. So now you have to have a new agreement made. In other words, you have to talk to your husband and say, I'm walking this, you're walking that. They don't match all the time. And so we need to talk about what we do when they don't match. In all other areas, though, you need to be doing this. That's still your husband. So the exception being when your husband is asking you to come out from under the covenantal covering. And so you can't do that. All right? And that's not like, where's the exception verse? Your husband's asking you to make an exception. And there's no exception. You're covenanted, you obey what Yahweh said. Period. Because it also says, and you're to love everybody less than you love him. Which means his covering is the one that you need to worry about. So, I always talk about it this way. If you're walking, all right, and your husband is walking with you with the umbrella, okay? All right, so you're walking. Let me rephrase that. I want to kind of, there's another layer to this. Okay, you're walking with your husband, and you're walking under Yeshua, who's the umbrella, and it's raining, and you're staying dry. And if your husband walks you away from that umbrella, you're getting wet now, you got a problem. But as long as you're staying dry, obey your husband, submit to your husband, that's your husband. As long as he's not asking you to break something. It's your husband, he wants a Christmas tree in the house. It's his house. You don't have to participate. You don't have to decorate it. You don't have to do any of those things. Now, but you may say, but I don't want it in the house. Well, then you have a husband-wife problem. You're going to have a deal with your marriage issues. Because you may decide, I know it's his authority and right to have it, but I'm not going to be in a house with that stuff. Then you may have to get a divorce. You may have to really have a problem. You may have to at least talk about how serious it is to you, and he may need to decide if he'd rather have you or the tree. Okay? Sadly, they pick the tree most of the time. They do. Okay? And so, but just kind of keep that metaphor there. Okay, next question, Rob.
Okay, from Michael Bendixson, it says, in regard to teachers receiving double judgment, what does it mean to be under double judgment? Is that a second death or something else?
No, it just means that they're being held to a higher standard, and whatever is going to happen, the displeasure of Yahweh will just be greater. Okay?
From Madison, says, as we each compare ourselves to him, would it be acceptable to also compare ourselves with our past selves to see the progress of how far we've come?
Yes, only compare yourself to you and to him. Stop comparing yourself and everybody else to other people, okay? I don't allow that in my house, all right? If my wife starts to compare one of my children to somebody, or if she tries to compare me to somebody, or if one of my children is comparing somebody to somebody, anything in my house that's happening like that, I stop it immediately. Okay, we're not doing that. Now, it doesn't happen because I've made it clear if anybody asks, if you were more like, or, why can't you be more like, or did you notice? And I'm like, no, we do not do that in this house, okay? Because ladies, by the way, the ladies do this more than the guys, and ladies, you're comparing your husband's worst something against somebody else's husband's best something, at least what it looks like in public. And you have no idea what they're like outside of that, Look, I mean, my wife, when we first got married, I went through a financial challenge right away, almost after we got married. And at the same time, we knew somebody who got married right after us. And right away, the husband bought her a nice new Jeep and got her a nice house. And I was still renting, and I didn't buy. And she's looking at me like, next thing you know, we find out he's an alcoholic and he's abusive. And see, but you just don't know. You understand what I'm saying? You just know what it looks like. It's the tip of the iceberg. You don't really know. So when you're watching somebody else's services and how their husband behaves and everything, you're looking at your husband, you're going, but you don't know what they're like at home. I say this all the time. Some people are very, very good in public. I'm not. I'm the same everywhere, okay? So, which is frustrating to my wife because she really would like me to be better in public. But there are moments where I kind of get short with people, or her or anybody, in front of everybody. That's not good, but I'm just saying is I'm not good at putting on a more appropriate public display. So I'm not calling everybody phonies in public. I'm just saying is you should behave more appropriately and keep your business at home. I'm not very good at that. Other people are. But that also means that what you're seeing in public isn't necessarily the whole story. Okay? You're just seeing what they've decided to show you. And some people are much more disciplined about that. I need to learn to be more disciplined about that, okay? Because it's a good thing to have. You shouldn't be, dealing with that kind of stuff in a public way that people don't need to see your laundry out like that and that kind of thing, all right? But see, that's when I have emotions start rumbling and bubbling and I'm not holding them into control like I need to, okay? All right, so Rob, one more and then we'll come back here.
Okay, from Donna Stevens, says, question, I've had a couple of husbands come to me and talk about marital problems. How do I say to them nicely, don't come to me and talk about your relationships?
Okay, well, you're a woman, you shouldn't be talking to anybody's husbands. Okay? Right, was that a woman that had asked the question? Okay. You shouldn't be talking to anybody's husbands. Why are you talking to people's husbands? All right? I don't talk to anybody's wife unless it's counseling. I mean, why are we doing that? They're not your husband. You shouldn't be talking to them. And all these men, knock it off talking to single women or other married women, whatever you're doing. You don't need to be doing that. No. I was watching a little video. I can't remember who it was, but the guy was talking about how he says, I can't be friends with women because he's married. And the person was saying, what do you mean you can't be friends? He says, because men cannot be friends with women. Oh, but he says that we're just friends and I'm not interested in you that way. Oh, no. He's just waiting for that door to crack open just a little bit. You need to know that you just can't do that. You're married. You don't have any female friends if you're a guy or male friends if you're a woman. That's it, period. I'm friendly with husbands and wives together, but I don't text the women. I don't call the women. I don't Facebook message the women. There's no social interaction, friends, with anybody who's female. That's not my daughter, not my wife. Period. Okay? Because you can't do that. Oh, but no, we're just friends. Or whatever. Okay? You can keep telling yourself that all you want. Doesn't work. All right, Steve.
Okay, I have a few thoughts as you were talking through. Is that when you talked about a lot of us doing to become more like Yeshua, so I have to ask my question. So this is to myself most of the time. So it's, what level of effort am I putting forth? The effort that I want to give, or maybe the effort Abba would expect? Because if my heart's not into it, the effort I have is going to be lacking. So if you want to make a comment.
Well, it's the same thing we talked about earlier, that you have to have leverage, motivation, drive, okay? You know what the problem is today is that you have, I think I would say, okay, the boomers were one way. I'm right at the tail end of that. Next was X, started getting a little worse. Z and the millennials, forget it. They're totally unmotivated with only passion for stupidity. In other words, they get real excited about really not useful things, which I think is stupid to get that passionate about things that are not that useful. But they're totally unmotivated. They have no passion or drive to do anything. 5 or 6 of them will sit together and each one has their own phone doing this. And they're sitting with each other. I told my children we didn't have phones. We went outside and we played. And half the time we didn't have stuff to play with, so we'd take things and turn them into toys. Find something you can kick and it became a ball. You found something you could throw. You just made stuff. You figured it out, right? We're talking about that. These kids don't have to figure anything out. Okay? Because they all have the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You guys know the book? It describes a tablet or your phone years before these things existed. Douglas Adams, right? But this is what they have. Oh, it's got everything. Well, that's not going to pay any bills for them. It's not going to put gas in their car. It's not going to help them get a driver's license. But they're unmotivated. They don't want to have any of these things. They don't care. Kids are all looking at me like, well, how come you didn't help me this or this or this? Nobody helped me when I did it. If you think Grandma and Grandpa helped me do that, they expected me to figure it out. It's not like they didn't know. They just, all right, you want to go to college? Go, figure it out. You want this career? Go, figure it out. Oh, they want everything handed to them. They're all enabled and entitled and just completely without any drive. Now, not all of them. I'm very impressed with the few when I see them that have some drive. And you know what they're doing? They're outstripping all the rest. And that's not a really high bar to beat, by the way, but they are. And every time I have a chance to talk to the teenagers, maybe I'll get a chance to do that again. We'll make like a video or something. When we have the youth classes here, I teach a thing called Torah time here for our school. And in that class, I looked at them this week. I talked to them, I think, on Friday about it. I said, you know what? You guys between 13 and 18, whatever it is in this class, the middle school and the high schoolers, I said, you could be light years ahead of everybody your age if you would start right now learning about how you think, what motivates you, how to get your passion and your drive, set goals, have things figure out what you want in life, and start heading there. You could be so far ahead of everybody. But no, you're going to graduate, not even know what to do to go to college, not have any idea what you're going to be doing there anyway, and then you're going to be happy to go, do you want fries with this for the next 5 years? And there's nothing wrong with the job that has, fast food and everything else, but it's a stepping stone, and it should be one you step off of quickly, okay? It's not a stopping point. Unless you think that somehow minimum wage or less is going to pay your bills when you get married and have kids. Because then you're going to come to me, like so many do at 35 and 40, and say, I don't know what to do. I go, what do you do? Blah, blah. What do you make? $15 an hour? I said, did it ever occur to you that that wasn't going to work by the time you got to be 40? I got people excited. I got a raise. I'm making 16 now. But that would work great if you were 18 now. I got a thought. Why did you aim to make at least your age? How's that for a thought? Make per hour your age. I don't know how to do that. Well, go figure it out. Because you're going to need it at that age. When you're 40, you're going to need 40 an hour. Oh my gosh, what makes 40 an hour? I don't know. Get off of your tuchus, that's Yiddish, and figure out what jobs pay that amount or more. Oh, but then I have to get a degree, and after this, you know what? Do you understand that generationally, from like boomers and before, we didn't only go to do what we wanted to do. Because you guys now only want to do what you want to do. If it's not fun, you don't want to do it. I don't like it. I don't like it. So what? My parents, their parents, they did what they had to do, not what they wanted to do. They didn't necessarily love whatever job they had. But you guys are all about, if it's not fun, you're all yellow in a sense. If it's not fun, I'm not doing it. If I don't like it, I'm not doing it. I like the age thing. I just came up with that. What do you think? You think that's a good one? The 70-year-olds over here saying, yeah, that's great. I want to be making 70 an hour over here. But at least to the time you get into your 50s, that should kind of be a goal. You're 20 years old. You should be aiming at 20 an hour. If you've got that beat, you're way ahead. Some of you thinking, even the general manager of my fast food place doesn't make that. You're in the wrong path, career-wise. You know, if the road you're on isn't going to take you where you want to go, change roads. Don't stay on that road. There's lots of roads. Pick a different one. Well, that's a whole lot of work, and I got to learn a new thing. All right, then whine and stay on the road and stay broke. Stay miserable, stay complain, whatever. What do you want me to do for you? Okay? Get to that moment where you've had enough, and then you're going to do something different. Because that's when you make a decision. Remember I said decisions is what you're about? No, thinking you want to or planning to, that's not a decision. Okay? People say, well, I've tried to smoke. I said, when are you going to decide to quit? Because when you decide, you stop. When you decide, I'm tired of being broke, guess what? You'll stop being broke. But you got to decide. Because what a decision means is, it's like the word incision is a cutting that's there. Decision is a cutting off of everything else and making a choice to do something. I'm deciding, I'm cutting off other stuff and I'm going to go. But now we have all this the weaker vessel, millennials, Gen Z is getting weaker and weaker. We're going to just have to push the next generation around just in wheelchairs. With like screens in front of them with, keypads, and that's it. Remember, what was that movie, WALL-E, where they're all just giant, fat, and laying in chairs on that, because everything was done for them, right? Remember on the spaceship? And they couldn't even like walk or anything because all they did was just have everything done for them? That's our future. That's where these kids are going. Unless you light a fire under them and stop doing everything for them. All right. Oh, Steve's got more. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. That's funny you went down that road because I'd like to add that some are so...
I went down a different road.
Okay. Some are so comfortable being miserable, it's more uncomfortable to make the change. So it's, to me, as our attitude is like our body. If it's not washed, it's going to stink.
Okay, hold on. I want to just change one thing you said. I think some people are comfortable being miserable, but I don't think that's really the case. The problem is they're not miserable enough. I don't think anybody is comfortable being miserable, okay? But they're willing to tolerate. Your problem is that you have a small capacity to do a lot of things that you should do, but you have this ridiculously large capacity to tolerate stuff that you shouldn't tolerate. And that's why you're staying where you are. Because you'd rather sit there and tolerate it than make the effort to fix it. And that's part of the problem. I remember, and I guess it sparked in me when I was a kid and I heard an Amway tape, right? A motivational guy talking on this tape, and he's saying that he heard one of these rich guys talking about how they get to go and do, because of their wealth, whatever they want, whenever they want, for as long as they want, with whoever they want, without regard to cost. In other words, I hated always having to ask how much something is before I bought it. Because I should want it and know that it's something I need and it's okay to get, not to just spoil myself, and just be able to buy it. I am not a shopper. I hate shopping. I buy things or I don't buy things. So when people ask me, what'd you pay for that? I don't know. I don't care. The store had it. I needed it. It was there. I bought it. Okay? Well, you could have saved $5 over here. No, I didn't know that, and I don't care. And thank you for that annoying little poke. Okay? Let me ask you something. If you make, listen, if you make $9 or $10 an hour, all right, and you drive 15 minutes to a store to save $20, that's pretty good, because your time is only worth $9 or $10 an hour. But you know what? If you make $50 an hour, it is not worth driving across town to save $10 or $5. So you're not valuing your time enough. It's like when I explained to my wife when the gas prices were all crazy, and she asked me where I got the gas. She said, well, you could have saved money over here. I said, well, that was out of my way, inconvenient. And I said, by the way, the car has 13 gallons, or whatever it was, and I was going to save a nickel. Okay, that's 65 cents. I make more money than that. I don't need to worry about saving 65 cents to drive across town out of my way to save 65 cents. Okay? See, but we're in this broke mentality. And I'm not telling you need to go pursue money and all this, but almost all of you are miserable because your money situation's bad. I mean, if I asked you to embarrass yourself, put your hands up, how many people are actually totally comfortable with their financial situation? It won't be a lot of hands. That's because we're still not doing what we need to do to fix that problem. So when I heard that tape, I said, that sounds to me like ideal. Not like to just run around and be a spoiled whatever, but to be able to say, you know what? If I want to go somewhere, if I want to go eat at a restaurant, I don't have to worry about looking at the menu and I see something that sounds really good and then I see the price and it changes my mind. I'd like to be able to feel like, and I've worked my whole life trying to get to where I could afford to look at the menu, and if I like something, I buy it. It don't matter to me what the price is on the right-hand side. And sometimes I like to think, I really don't have an expensive taste. So I usually end up getting one of the cheaper things on the menu because I don't really like the expensive stuff. But I don't want that to be a factor. Don't you want to be free? Well, if your money's not right, you're not free because the lack of money is controlling your choices. Did you ever think of it that way? You are a slave. Some people say, well, I don't want to be a slave to money. You already are. It controls your choices. Well, we haven't gone on a vacation in 10 years. Why? Because you're broke. So you don't have that choice. Wouldn't it be nice to have that choice? You got to make different choices. You know what? I'm telling you, I'm listening to this teaching with the teenagers in the school. Listen to the Making Decisions teaching like every month. Every week if you need to. It's one part, one teaching, that's it. Listen to this little rant. Something. You're going to have to find something that lights a fire in you. See, some of you watch me, you're like, okay, because they want me to slow down and I had pneumonia and all this stuff. But you know why I run around like I do? Because I've got a fire in me. Okay? I mean, I look at the staff sometimes, I'm like, where are you going? They're like, well, I've been here 8 hours. I'm like, so there's stuff to do. I mean, and I'm paying them or whatever, but I mean, it's like I told Billy that first time, it was his first feast with me, and I looked at him on the Thursday before everybody got here, and he was about to go home. And now, Chantel, this is my fault. Okay, because she was thinking he was coming home, because he just called her and said, I'm on my way, and then he said, no, I'm not. Because I just looked at him and said, just so you know next time, and I was going to let him go, I said, we don't go anywhere till it's finished. Why? Because there's a fire. Okay? There's a passion, there's a fire to serve, to do, to provide, to be productive. I got one guy who used to be here, he's not here anymore, and he was working, I think, 3 12s. That was his shift, so he worked 3 12s. I said, what do you do with the other 3 days? Because he was complaining about being broke. We got 3 more days, do something. I said, can you take another shift? He said, probably. I said, stop whining about it. But I don't like it. Oh my gosh. Be at peace and shut up. Or fix it. You guys are all like, Rabbi, nobody talks like that. I'm sorry, but you need to hear it. Be at peace and be quiet, or fix it. Isn't that what you would tell a kid? Stop whining about it, fix it. All right? Well, I don't have enough money. Wait, but you got 3 days. There's 7 days in a week, you're working 3. You got 3 more days. Be quiet or fix it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Okay? You're still up there?
One more thing. That's what happened. He kept me in the kitchen all the time. No, I loved it. It was great. Maybe you could help me if this is the right thinking, right? Is unresolved turn into resentment, and that definitely stunts our ability to move forward because we're always dealing with the bad.
Absolutely. Anything that you have that's unresolved is just anchors of weight dragging on everything you're doing. You cannot move forward when you've got a ton of unresolved things. And it absolutely will turn into resentment and other negative emotions. Okay? You need to unburden a lot of stuff and resolve them, or you could be okay with it not being resolved. Just let it go. Either way, because that's still a resolution. Letting it go is a resolution, by the way. All right? And Billy can tell you, I remember things for very short periods of time when it comes to stuff. Even if I did a kindness to somebody, they may come back and say thank you, and I don't know what they're talking about. That happened this week. And I literally did not remember, even though it only happened 10 minutes earlier. Because I'm already gone into somewhere else. I can't have all of that stuff, positive or negative, just dragging on me. I'm here now, in the now, going that way. Okay? And so some people might think, oh, he's still mad at me. I'm not. If I was mad at you, it ended the minute I walked out of the room or you walked out of the room, or at least within 10 minutes. That Billy will tell you, he's heard me rant and rave a little bit, and then it's gone. And then people get all mad and talk to him. He says, Rabbi already forgot about it. And they're looking at him like, what? Oh, yeah, he doesn't remember it even anymore. I can't be doing that and move forward. You can't either. You can't have the past always in your present. There's no way to live now in the past. You just can't do it. Which is why I was only in that moment. The person came up to me to thank me, and I'm like, okay, you're welcome. I don't know. Because I literally forgot. Because it wasn't in the context of whatever was happening that moment. Anyway, next. Okay, back here. Olivier. Vive le challenge!
So, in the good tradition of having Shamash Steve...
wait, was that English?
No.
Say it again.
No.
Okay.
So in the tradition of having comments from Shamash Steve, I also have a comment from Janet. She's not here. She's helping upstairs.
She's using you as a surrogate for her
So she
questions.
has a comment on Ephesians 5:20.
Yes?
She says, I just wanted to share that every time I run into a challenging situation, challenge, and I feel troubled, the minute I seek Him and give Him thanks and walk through it all, my disposition changes. I get clarity and peace that allows me to tackle the situation with confidence. I just need to remember to do this all the time.
Amen. Well said. Good comment. All right, anybody else in the room here? Okay, Christine. And then Paul, we got one on this side of the room after that, okay?
I was wondering if you could say a few words about verse 29, where it says, for no one has ever hated his own flesh, but feeds and cherishes it, as also the master does the assembly. I was wondering if you could talk about the feeding and cherishes part. What does that look like? Because I've read a lot of books about where if the woman is not being fed and cherished properly, then they go seek it elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay, so what it's basically saying is you can't be just so focused on going out there and being the provider and I'm working and everything, but there has to be a caring for, right? It says, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but feeds it. Okay, so you feed the body so that it can stay functional and strong and healthy. Of course, if you feed it with the wrong thing, some of you are thinking, Rabbi, what did you have for breakfast, the way you're rock and rolling here? But anyway. But you feed the body. And of course, if you don't feed it with the right stuff, it doesn't work either. So he says, but he feeds and cherishes it. So the cherishing means that you're going to care about what you're feeding. You're going to care about that body. And so when you bring that to the wife, yes, the wife has to feel cherished. The wife has to feel cared for. I didn't mention it here, but I know I mentioned it in a previous thing during either last week or during the feast when I said, look, if your wife feels like there's anyone in the below that is above her in your eyes, she's not going to feel cherished. Okay? If you put anyone before her, Now, ladies, this doesn't mean that he does everything you say. It means that you need to know that he cares about you more than he cares about anybody else. Okay, that his heart is for you more than anyone else, other than those in the above, right? The Father and the Son. But in the below, down here, he doesn't care about his mother more than you, or his sister or brother or cousin, or his best friend, or his coworkers, or his job, or whatever it is. Because some people say, well, you love that job more than you love me. So those things have to be clearly addressed. You have to make sure that, if your wife's upset, you may have done something that didn't put her in first place. Now, ladies, that doesn't mean that you get to feel and say, well, I didn't feel like I was in first place because you didn't fix the thing I asked you to fix. That's not the way it works. Okay? He can love you intensely and have prioritized something other than what you wanted in a different priority that doesn't have anything to do with his level of love for you. Okay? However, guys, you need to communicate it. I love you. I appreciate you. I value you. I didn't mean any, to hurt your feelings or mess you up because I didn't put this priority, but I felt this was something I needed to do. And I needed to rearrange that timing. I know it's not what you would have had me do. It's not your choice, though. It's my choice. All right? And so that's important. Okay? So hopefully that works out. So the feeding, you should know what she needs. Some women need more attention, different attention. Actually, you know what? Use your love languages. You want to feed your wife? Do the love languages. If she needs words of affirmation, feed her words of affirmation. She needs physical touch, feed her physical touch. She needs acts of service, feed her, do some acts of service. That will feed her, okay? She'll also feel cherished that you take the time to think about her needing those things because you're communicating the love language. Okay, so you can accomplish two things at the same time with that. Did that answer your question? I know you were about to look for the mic for half a second there. Okay? All right? But basically, because it's talking about nobody would treat their own body a certain way, look, you take care of yourself. Not everybody does, but the assumption here is that you would take care of yourself. You kind of know what you need. Well, now you got to take care of her. You should figure out what she needs. All right? And have that awareness. Ladies, it goes the other way too. If you're going to be a helpmeet, then you got to figure out what your husband needs so that you could be his helpmeet. All right? Okay, on this side? Michael?
Rabbi, I was just wondering, since you were talking about the personality colors earlier, what would a white blue, because I'm a white blue, what would a white blue man, what are some of the things they would have to change to lead their family with propriety?
Okay, look, remember the colors are, I was going to just say, forget it, you're out of luck, but no. That's the red, yellow, wise guy thing, okay? But no, look, all of you need to remember this. Let's be really clear about how this whole personality test thing and all that stuff is. All it means, well, I'm a white, blue, and I'm a red, yellow, and I'm a this. Look, all that means, okay, is that your without thought, reactionary, default response generally will be that style of response, okay? In other words, without effort, your natural inclination is that when something is happening, Mr. White, is to make sure whatever you do, you avoid conflict. Okay? All right? But that's not always going to be helpful if you need to be actually doing something more proactively. But if you do it proactively, it may open up the door to a conflict, and that's why you don't do it. Not because doing it will make a conflict, but because you might avoid it. So what you guys need to all learn is the second part of the color thing, which is the colors that you need, that you don't have active when you need them. These are simply personality traits that you need to do consciously. I do blue. Not often, but when I need to try to do blue and white, I don't have either of those colors. I'm sort of a very broken two-color person, but I know what blue positive traits are, and so when I'm in a social situation that requires that to functionally do well in it, I can do some blue things. It's just I have to do it in a conscious way. I have to think to do it. It's not my natural behavior. Okay? So like, for example, the other side of it. I am naturally the class clown. I'm the wise guy. I'm a one-liner. I will rip them out as fast as anybody can think they could be ripped out there. I had a few teenagers think they could draw on me and try to do a zinger on me, and it came back so fast that one almost fell out of their chair. That's what I did from the time I was this big, right? That's not bragging or anything. That's just, now, that's not always appropriate, though. So I now need to learn to consciously restrain that when it's not an appropriate time or place. Because my natural default isn't going to be helping me at that moment. Your natural default, when you are in a situation that requires red and you don't really have much red working, well, your white isn't going to help you there. So now you have to think about, okay, how do I bring up that positive trait of red to lead, to make decisions, to look at the big picture, things that reds do naturally that you don't, okay? One of the big things that we do that a lot of you have to understand is that we have, generally speaking, zero fear of anything going wrong because we'll fix it or pay someone to fix it or find someone to fix it or whatever. Whereas, the biggest fear that a blue has is that something might go wrong. Okay? And so that's why a red and a blue together, it's a very fun combination. Because the blue is freaked out. Why is the red not thinking about what's going to go wrong? I don't care, I'll fix it. Okay? And it's not that I don't think about it. I mean, we don't, because we're more concerned that if it goes wrong and slows us down, that's a problem. So I will be aware of, but I balance, okay, so doing this might speed us up. There's a small chance it can go wrong, but that's worth the extra benefit. And so we make those kind of decisions. We balance things out. The blue's thinking, yeah, but it can go wrong. Let's not do that. Or do everything we can to protect it. Okay? By the way, I never said this before. Self-editing time. No, I'll say it anyway. I always do that, right? I edit and then I'll say it anyway. It was the very blue Jews that wrote the Talmud. Think about it. Details, fences around fences, all out of fear of breaking the law. Okay? They were having a total blue out and just said, we're going to make sure we bubble wrap this thing. Okay? Okay? It's like the parent wanting to bubble wrap the kid so the kid can't ever get injured. The first time I went to send my kid out, and I was in New York, and he was going to either roller skate or ride a bike or something. They wanted to put him basically into like a Transformer suit. He had a helmet and elbows and pads and knees, and I said, how's he going to pedal? The only thing we had was a part of a deck of cards we stuck in the wheel, so it went, All right? And while they're trying to figure out how to gear this kid up, I'm trying to figure out how to turn everything that's a rock and a board into a ramp so I can go flying over the front of my handlebars, Anybody ever go over the front of their handlebars? We all lived, right? Many times. No helmet, no pads. My wife, the first time the kids went out and played and got like a little stain or grass stain or tear on the pants, I was like, are you kidding me? I didn't have anything that didn't have a hole in it. Because we were on streets and we played and we fell and we tore up everything. Right? My grandmother said I had scabs on my scabs. Oh no, we got to bubble wrap everybody now and put them in helmets and pads and this and that. Really? Oh my gosh. No wonder they're a freaked out generation. Just give me an electronic device, it's safer. I'll just sit here and play on my phone. As boys, we threw rocks at each other. We thought that was fun. And not because we were mad either, we just thought it was fun to throw rocks at each other. Throw sticks at each other. We did all kinds of dumb things. And we all survived. Anyway, I have no idea what we had, but anyway, so the Talmud was written by blue Jews. That's going to be the next meme that goes out there. I need lunch, or whatever we eat at this few minutes. We got a few more minutes out here. Go ahead, Aaron. No, it wasn't Aaron Zati. He was standing behind Aaron, so I thought it was Aaron. Okay. Okay, all right.
My question was about how to be a help me. I know you talked about how you can't just figure it out. It has to be like in your heart. But I really just don't comprehend what that means, because I feel like it's automatic to want to be encouraging to your husband. So is it just equivalent to being like in your feminine energy, and then the man is always going to be in there? No.
Okay. Here, let me explain this.
Help.
Let me explain this. Help. Okay. Help. I need somebody. Okay. Actually, the next line's good. Not just anybody. Look, you want to find a guy first and foremost that's going someplace that you can get behind. Okay? Because you need to help him and support him in where he's going. All right? So step one, you got to believe in a man and where he's going. Then it's easy to say, how can I help you go there? Problem is, a lot of guys out there going nowhere. Or they have no idea where they're going. And they sit there going, Rabbi, how do I be a helpmeet to a guy who has no idea where he's going? Pick a different guy. Somebody like, but I've been married to this one for 20 years. Well, then, you have to figure this out. Send your guy to me. I've got 2 shoes, left or right, doesn't matter. We'll kick them hard, okay? You laugh. I say that often when they walk in the room. I say, which one do you want? That's a legitimate counseling technique. Janet, I know you're watching. Don't use that. Okay. It's a rabbi technique. Because when they're when they're spinning around in the nowhere's land and they're just whining and complaining, I look at them like, which one do you want? I got a left, I got a right. I mean, they work, both of them. Okay? And so your answer is, yes, it will work somewhat naturally if you pick someone who you can. The main thing to be a helpmeet is to believe in him and where he's going. And you want to be there to cheer him on and help in any way you can because you believe in him and where he's going. All right? You can clap for that. Okay? And if you marry somebody who you don't believe in him and where he's going, that's your mistake. But he doesn't know where he's going, then he's not ready to get married. Guys, you want to get married? Why would anybody marry you if you don't know where you're going? They got to know where you're going. You got to know where you're going. And there has to be evidence that you're actually going in that direction. You can't just be like, well, I'm going, blah, blah, and it's all pie in the sky dream nonsense. There should be some evidence that you're actually moving in that direction, that you actually have a goal and you're making the effort to go in that direction. Oh, who's next? Okay, Ashley?
Yes, with the teaching that I was able to see and understand, I've learned throughout my walk that I'm a very stubborn person, and I don't tend to move unless something's lit underneath me. And how do I take that stubbornness away to be a better submissive wife for my husband? Because I've been reading and studying, I can't honor my husband. I can't honor Yeshua if I don't honor my husband, and I can't honor my husband if I don't honor you. Or backwards, if I can't honor you if I don't honor my husband. So how do I take the stubbornness away so I can get through that?
All right, this is the same problem. This is the same problem we were talking about before. You're going to have to get your mind to override your emotional stuff. The stubborn is an emotional reaction. Okay, stubborn is simply you digging in your heels on an I want or an I don't want. How do you fix that? You're going to have to decide that that's not productive, not helpful, and really doesn't get you what you want. Stubborn doesn't work. It may seem like it works because you get your way occasionally, but it really doesn't work. So at some point, you will change the stubborn when you recognize that it hurts and doesn't help. Okay? And then you'll start to release all of that emotion that's behind your digging in those heels into the I want or I don't want. All right? You have to leverage it. So again, use the leveraging that I talked about emotionally. Get more afraid of the stubborn than more about being stubborn. In other words, so you see yourself digging in your heels, you should be like, no, I'm more afraid of how bad that will be. I should stop that right now. I need to not dig in my heels. But right now, you have no fear of being stubborn. There's not been enough consequences to being stubborn. See, what this Bible, though, shows you tons of consequences to a very stubborn, stiff-necked people. That's stubborn. Stiff-necked means stubborn. I'm not bowing down. I want what I want. I don't want what I don't want. And that's it. And nobody's going to tell me what to do. And he had to get really strong with them to give them enough consequences to realize, okay, I better start listening and stop being stubborn. Because stubborn simply means you're strongly digging in your heels and defending your desire to or not to do something. Okay? All right. Okay, on this side. Melinda.
It's so weird being on this side. So you were talking about the color.
You mean on the left side of the room versus the right side of the room? No, you're used to being on the other side of the camera. I understand.
You've talked about the color code before. And 3 in our family have taken the color code test. I'm a blue, he's a white, my son's a yellow. So how would you go about communicating and strengthening your relationship with a white or a yellow if you're blue?
Well, look, I mean, you got to understand what you have, and that was part of the whole point of remember, the reason we did the personality thing was simply that if you could understand yourself better, you might understand other people better, okay? Right. So you need to understand that your white husband, okay, because that's his personality, right? That he is going to be less likely to be upfront about things he doesn't like, less likely to tell you when he's not happy about something because he wants to avoid conflict. So you're going to have to find ways that are non-threatening to get that information out of him, because if you don't, he's a time bomb ready to explode. Okay? All of you have whites at home should just have a little thing that's ticking so you know. If you have a white husband or a white wife out there, you should hear this tick, 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 tick. Because they're going to blow at some point if you don't address the things, but you're not going to know what to address unless you ask and you make it safe for him to share.
Right, because that was my question. Where would it be out of line as a wife submitting herself?
Well, I mean, look, as far as the leadership part, encourage him that he can get the red stuff going, he can lead, but his main thing is conflict avoiding, right? So you need to let him know that if you step up, it's not something that will be a conflict. If you mess it up, I'm not going to attack you, I'm not going to judge you. He wants to avoid anything that's conflict. So if you have to make it as safe as possible for him to go out and step out and try something, and show him that just try anything and see that it's okay. Kind of like with my children. I had to tell my children, look, no matter what you do, if you tell me about it, it's going to be safe. I may not like it, there may be consequences, but they had to test me just to see, right? They had to share something with me just to see. Not test me and do something dumb just to see, but just to share with me and see how that would go. You gotta let her, if she says that, give it a try and let her, then you gotta make sure that it's a safe place for him to try, and if he messes up, you're not gonna, because then he's not gonna wanna ever do it again.
Right,
okay?
And so how would I communicate to my son?
To your son who's yellow?
He's yellow.
All right, well with him, you're just gonna have to get him to figure out how something can actually be fun or leading to fun.
Right.
Okay, because if it's not fun, he's not gonna wanna do it. Right. But if you say, look, I know that this isn't fun, but as long as you do this not fun thing, there's gonna be some lot of fun we're gonna do later. Right. It's gonna lead to.
Right, because he's 18, so it's like.
Well, he's 18, then he's not your problem anyways. He's still at home?
Yeah.
Change the locks.
No, yeah, he's still in school, but he's not horrible.
No, okay, but if he's yellow,
everything's a joke.
If everything's a joke, if he's yellow, then the main thing with him is help him understand that if he can be serious enough in life, he will have more time and more ability to do the things that are fun. Right. Okay? To balance out his yellow, you still have to appeal to the yellow. Okay. All right? And then change the locks. Okay. Yeah, I hope he's not watching, she says. Why? He's yellow. He'll think it's funny. If he was white, he'd be at home planning your death. Okay, so. Tick, tick, tick. Oh, yeah. Craig.
Shalom, Rabbi.
Shalom.
I knew the first time I saw my wife that she was part of me, and I think I was 14 or 15 at that time. But I have a question here, and it's out of Galatians 6:4. But let each one examine his own work, and then he shall have boasting in himself alone, and not in another. And I think that ties into Yeshua and the plank.
Yep.
And when we can actually sit down and examine ourselves and then put that to to change, and it seems like it's an ever-going process. And I myself am blessed with a family that can show me things that I wouldn't have seen, and any problem or flaw or anything that my family is presenting, my wife or my children or anybody below me, is ultimately something within myself that I have to find and work out within me as the leader in order to present that to them and allow it to kind of go full circle. A lot of the monetary stuff, I have a hard time with Matthew, it was 6:33, I think. And when we are to have our faith in order, and then all of that stuff gets added onto us, I just never feel like my faith is strong enough to proceed in pursuant of anything outside my. It seems like when my faith is to the level of the disciples, or the level the things will happen that are. I just don't know how that all ties in timing wise.
Okay, so Matthew 6 was talking about the problem with worrying, and he wanted us to not worry. But if you balance that out, he said, look, if you seek first the kingdom and its righteousness, then these other things will start to come into place. But it's not like don't make the effort in these other things until you get there. You got to have to be doing them sort of concurrently together, okay? And that's really, but he was addressing, an emotional problem in the crowd, which was worrying about stuff. He says, stop worrying. Do the best you can. Seek first the kingdom, and you'll be fine. Your heavenly Father knows what you're going through, and he'll take care of you. And I've watched your life, and, there's been some times that were pretty rough, but he took care of you. Okay? And so that's there's evidence of that there that you can build on. But I want to make sure that, I don't know that you would do that, but I'm saying I want to make sure nobody else is hearing the idea that somehow I've got to get that first at the cost of everything else. No, these things have to be going on at the same time. Okay? And you have to be making that effort. And so that's important that we do that. By the way, with the other thing I was going to say, and I've got to remember where it was going to be from the colors, it was something else. Okay, for those of you that are dealing with these personality things, everything I was talking about earlier had to do with leverage, motivation. Use that to your advantage. If you're dealing with whatever color, it doesn't matter. The colors tell you the motivator. Okay, blue is motivated by intimacy, relationship, and those kind of things. Yellow by fun, white by peace, red by leadership, that kind of thing. So use that to motivate a person. So you have a yellow sun, like I was saying, so motivate him as to, if you could do this, you'll have more fun eventually, or you'll have more time to have more fun if you have a better career, you have these other things. Use that with the same thing with your white husband. If you were to do these things, we'd have more peace. We'd have, in other words, incentivize that doing something that you would like them to do will give them what's their more important, what their motivator is. All right? Okay, so that's the key to that. So if you can embrace more red and lead more, we'd have more peace in this house, to the white husband. Okay? Oh, well, that might incentivize me to maybe do more of that because I want more peace. See, just figure out how to motivate each other. And so the personality test is simply a way to have an insight into some things that may motivate somebody. All right? And so you dangle that out there and say, look, I know this is what you really want in life. I think we can have more of that if you would do this. All right? Would that make sense for you? Okay? Now, okay, where to go? Pat.
One quick question about the personality. Are you born with this personality, or is it your upbringing?
No, I mean, look, we some of it is by default, I think, by birth, and some of it is based on how people may have pounded it in or out of you, based on how things happen early in life. So the original test, the guy said, answer the questions based on how you were as a kid, but sometimes people do change. There are some people who were very introverted and now very extroverted, that kind of thing. So some people that were very driven by fun and yellow are now much more driven by some other motivator. So I always tell people, just answer where you are now, to figure out what's driving you now. Okay? How you got there is a combination of things. I mean, I've got 2 children, clearly very different personalities. If you have, more than one child, they have very different personalities, even though they were raised essentially the same, right? Especially my 2, because they're almost, twins. I mean, they're only 14 months apart. So it's not even like there was a big age gap that could have made, difference in how they were raised. But yet they're very different. So some of it's birth. Okay, and that's some of the things that affected their personality based on how they were raised to some degree. So I don't know, but mostly I think it's a default. I think that it's mostly born, you're born with that, okay? Okay, I think it's already 5:30. I think I'd like to be done. Rob, do you have 1 or 2 on live stream that you want to get to real quick?
There's a couple on here. From Amy Henderson, what are the rules for singles? And then Janice Hubble says, so if you're a single woman, then who do you go for help?
Okay, what are the rules for singles? Okay, I was going to be a wise guy. I won't do that. Look, I did cover singles. Go listen to the Up to the Challenge I did during the feast. And some of you are wondering, what were you going to say? There was like 17 lines came into my head. I didn't pick one. I did a thing for the singles and then also for parents with children that might be of dating age or thinking about dating and stuff. So that one I would do. It was on Thursday or something, like during the feast. Okay, so look for that teaching. I think it's listed as Up to the Challenge. And so that was from during Unleavened Bread. And so that would be the singles. Now, as far as the second thing was about, well, what do you do if you don't have anybody to go to? Well, if you're single, you can always, that's something the ministry can help provide, is a covering. Actually, let me clarify that for everybody. Because people will call up and ask, well, about can I be their covering? Let me make sure you understand what a covering is. I'm your rabbi. So that means that halakhically, any question about how to walk this out, I would already be the person you would ask. You could be married, you could be single, you could be anything. That's my role as your teacher, all right? Covering is something we provide for those that are uncovered, meaning you're a woman, because men are not uncovered. Although men can be uncovered if they should actually be under somebody like me. So and by the way, almost all the problems we've ever had in any congregation were from uncovered women. Not that they were single, they had men that weren't covering them. They were just letting them run rampant in a Jezebel sort of way and just ruling the roost and doing whatever they wanted. So they were acting uncovered. So someone covered means that there's somebody in authority that they are submissive to, that they can go to with questions and can straighten them out if necessary. And that relationship is by default when you're a daughter to a father. You have a father, he's that authority for you. It's also by default when you're married, your husband has that authority. What happens when you're single? Okay, you're widowed, you're divorced, whatever, you're just an older single who never got married. What do? You don't have a father necessarily that you would feel comfortable going to, who's maybe totally not in the walk and anything else. So who do you go to for those kind of things? And by the way, those things are not Torah-based. You come to me anyway for those. These are the non-Torah-based things that you still want counsel for. Like maybe you're trying to decide, you got a car, it's problematic, is it worth the money that they're asking to fix it, or should I just buy a new one? That's something you may ask your husband, or you may ask your father. I mean, I'm not sure, I'm thinking about changing careers, and I have these sort of options, or this kind of opportunity came up. These are not Torah-based issues. They're real-life secular issues that everybody goes through, that you may want some advice on. Now, I'm talking about advice. I will not tell anyone what to do, even though, shockingly, how often they want me to. They do. They really like, just tell me what to do. I'm like, no. All right? But I might give you some advice that you can then think about in making your decision. Okay? But I'm not going to tell you what to do. So that's what the covering thing is. Now, if you're married and your spouse is not covenanted, I cannot be your covering. I can still be your rabbi, but you have a husband, and he's still going to be your husband, and that means all things not Torah, you still go to him. But he's awful at all that stuff. Well, that's your problem, not mine. I don't mean to sound that callously, but I've got a lot on my plate. I don't need to worry about your marriage problem that you have with your husband when it comes to making decisions about big things. Now, if it's both of you and you're both under me and you're both submitted, then you can both come to me because you'll both listen. That's different. But if your husband isn't under me and he's not listening, there's nothing I can do. The one thing I have to make sure I don't do is usurp him. Okay? And I'm not going to usurp your husband. It says women, right? It said wives, be subject to your husband. And I'm not going to insert myself into that equation. All right? There's only one woman with that problem. That's my wife. The rest of you, you're free from that problem. Okay? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to step inside of that very intimate loop that's you and your husband, period. But we got all these problems. Well, if he's willing to counsel, I counsel you. If he's not willing to counsel, then I don't know what we can do. I can help give you guidance on how to try to, live with understanding with him, but I'm not usurping. Not happening. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We got all the children in here. I'm going to... Shabbat Shalom! Shavua Tov! We love